What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So we ended up getting a little 2-for-1 special from a certain NFL quarterback legend in Steve Young. Now, the main story here on the Adam Schefter podcast when he made these comments was surrounding Zach Wilson. Things have been quiet for the most part since the season ended, or at least since he ended up unofficially going on IR and not playing the last couple weeks of the season. We expect a trade, right? That's the forethought of everybody's mind. Joe Douglas has opened himself up to it. Robert Saleh hasn't committed to his future. And pretty much anybody else across the league fully expects that we're going to move on, right? And we've seen this trend with the New York Jets so far, specifically under Robert Saleh's tenure, where if relationships start to sour, they try to distance themselves, right? After a certain point, and I don't know what that threshold looks like for them. It's kind of been different for each player and position as things have come up. But he looks to just amicably go their separate ways, right? And so there's no long, disdainful period of drama like a Jamal Adams, Muhammad Wilkerson type situation or anything like that. They just kind of cut ties, and it essentially happens out the blue. But Steve Young did give his thoughts on where he believes that Zach Wilson should end up, which ended up kind of being a backhanded compliment to the New York Jets as well. Obviously, he's predicting that the LA Rams would be the most appropriate spot for Zach Wilson. I'm not surprised by this at all. We talked about these being one of the most fitting spots for Zach Wilson if you want to talk about the best offensive culture to place him in as a stash and develop type project for whichever team decides to assume his contract. But obviously things look really well, right? Especially in what should have been a rebuild year for them. You're talking about Zach Wilson having the benefit of learning from a Matthew Stafford. He has the benefit of a top 5 running back in Kyron Williams. He has a top offensive line in the NFL to work behind. And he has 2 extraordinary wide receivers, a veteran who could teach him quite a bit in Cooper Kupp, and a up-and-coming offensive rookie of the year, most likely, in Puka Nacua, right? Came out of nowhere, took the league by storm, set a rookie record for receptions, I believe, and as a 5th rounder nonetheless. So couldn't be happier to see him in a spot like that, right? You take a look at recent history as well, which kind of sides with this being a likely situation would be when the Rams picked up Baker Mayfield. He kind of underwent a revival of sorts with the Rams, and he parlayed that into a playoff appearance with the Buccaneers. And from everything I'm kind of seeing surrounding there, that should be an interesting offseason conversation with what an extension for Baker Mayfield looks like. But I've also heard some rumors about Zach Wilson potentially getting some trade interest in Tampa Bay as well. We'll have to see how that actually pans out. But for the focus of this being the Rams, there you have it. Now, Steve Young's comment to himself, here's where the backhanded piece kind of came in. And it wasn't a direct shot at the Jets. It's just a realistic observation with what we've seen in recent history. He said Wilson needs to get to one of those spots. He needs to join forces with them. If we're going to see anything out of Zach Wilson into the future, he needs to get away from these places that are not quarterback friendly. And the New York Jets, probably since the days of like Chad Pennington and then Vinny Testaverde before that, our own, quarterback legend, the Jets have never really been a place that you look and say, if you want to revive your career as a quarterback, if you want to go out there and have a significant level of success, go to New York, go to the Jets, right? That's never happened. That's never come out of anybody's mouth, which is sad to say. We have been known for our defensive dominance, lethal ground games, sometimes aerial attacks, but for the most part, offensive success in the Jets don't go hand in hand. And so I can't blame him. It sucks to hear over and over and over again repeated, especially when it's this blatant, but that's just what it is. The Jets don't have a quarterback friendly environment. We have elements of what you would love to see, a smothering defense that this year was able to also help pick up turnovers to get the ball back in the hands of the offense. You do have a great piece of Breece Hall that you have to utilize much, much more than we've seen. And you have a number one weapon in Garrett Wilson, a safety blanket in Tyler Conklin that you love, and some developmental pieces behind him, right? A Jeremy Ruckert. You love AVT on the line whenever he is healthy. Joe Tippmann's looking good. So you have some elements of some stuff to work with, but unless you're a real offensive guru at this point, it kind of seems like a long shot to imagine the Jets having a top 10 or even really a top 10 creative play calling type offense. Steve Young went on to say, though, when it comes to the fit of Zach Wilson with the Rams, to me, the place he needs to be in is LA. Go with Sean McVay, follow Stafford, and just sit there and watch the magic. Then you can see, and then see if you can pick it up. If you can, then you can be one of the best because you have the talent for it. But yes, to get to one of those spots, there's these innovative minds taking advantage of the rule changes. And, there's a couple pieces in there that really stuck out to me. The first piece was that there's this sense around the league that obviously the Jets ruined another quarterback. And, I can't disagree with them by any means. I actually fully am on board with that thought process, which goes to say that there's still a belief in the league that Zach Wilson does have top tier quarterback talent in terms of what he can do off platform, the throws, working outside of structure. We've seen some borderline elite play. It's just been very few and far in between. And a coach like Sean McVay could be the perfect guy to pull that out of Zach Wilson as basically probably one of the best and fun projects that you could hope for if you love a bit of a challenge, right? We've tried to hit the reset button a few times. The next franchise will probably be the one that benefits from giving him an actual fresh and full reset, even if they don't get to keep him beyond the 1 year. The second piece, though, would be the fact that he called out innovative minds taking advantage of the rule changes. Again, another factor that goes against the New York Jets in our history of offense. We haven't really had a guy that has, created something like a tush push, has created an offense or developed a player that has changed rules offensively to try to limit them or to even help boost something that they've seen they like to a certain stature, right? So I say all of that to say I do think that we will see the Rams to Zach Wilson pick up steam at some point. I have to check out what this Tampa Bay rumor is. But this is a narrative that 100% will have to change. And it probably won't happen until after this Aaron Rodgers saga concludes, right? The New York Jets not being a quarterback-friendly environment. This is the whole situation we ran into before where we were overpaying free agents to come in, and this is basically where they just hung up their careers. They got to chase the biggest bag probably of their careers in terms of guaranteed money or per annual average, and basically most free agent deals that you're going to see that involve big money are legitimately 2 to 3 year contracts, where it's very, very hard for a team to get out of without taking a silver bullet. So we'll see what happens, right? At this point, we're kind of asking ourselves what the next quarterback project for the Jets are going to look like. This is basically version 3 of trying to get it right at quarterback if we do select one in the 2024 NFL draft. After trying to see what we can do with Sam Darnold, then having Zach Wilson. Now we'll see what the next story ends up looking like. But let me know what your guys' thoughts were on Steve Young's comments, and I'll catch you again. Peace.